Good evening. My name is Latika Gupta, and it's a pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Sher-Gil Sundaram Arts Foundation. As many of you probably already know, the Sher-Gil Sundaram Arts Foundation, SSAF, was founded by Vivan Sundaram and his sister Navina Sundaram in 2016. Since its inception, the foundation has supported artistic and cultural practice that deals with historical memory, with a view towards futurities that are firmly sort of rooted in secular principles and freedom of expression. It is these principles that form the bedrock of our work that extends across a series of grants that support arts practice, research and writing, publications under our imprint SSAF Tulika Books, our co-publishing initiative with Tulika Books, and you can see a display of several of the books outside, organizing workshops, lectures, symposia, and also incubating and supporting discursive, processual, and experimental strategies of practice through what we call the SSAF Lab. I encourage you to visit our website, ssaf.in, to learn more about our programs. A major location for our work since October 2024 is SCAP, the SSAF Kasoli Art Project at the site of the erstwhile Kasoli Art Center in Himachal Pradesh, where Vivan organized workshops, seminars, artist residencies from 1976 to 1991 at his family home, which was bequeathed to him and his sister by their mother, Indira. In 2016, with the foundation of SSAF, Vivan proposed that the locale and setting be reinvented as CAP, the SSAF Kasoli Art Project, with renewed infrastructure and a cross-disciplinary program that focuses on process-oriented workshops, performance making and theater, seminars and screenings. This year marks the decade of the inception of the Umrao Singh Sher-Gil Grant for Photography, now in its 8th iteration. The grant was established in 2015 by Vivan Sundaram and Devika Daulat Singh, who continues to be an essential advisor to the grant and its evolution, in the name of Vivan's grandfather, Umrao Singh Sher-Gil. Umrao Singh was born in 1870 near Amritsar and was the oldest son of the Punjabi zamindar Raja Suraj Singh Majithia. And while his brother set up a successful sugar factory near Gorakhpur with his inheritance, Umrao Singh lived in the politically and creatively vibrant city of Lahore, where he began a lifelong friendship with the young poet Muhammad Iqbal. Both men were actively anti-British, which eventually led to the confiscation of Umrao Singh's property. He withdrew into a life of scholarship, studying Sanskrit, Persian, philosophy, and theology. He was a profound admirer of the humanist and Enlightenment principles of Leo Tolstoy, even dressing himself in a simple tunic fashioned after one worn by the Russian writer. Umrao Singh was married to the Hungarian opera singer Marie Antoinette Gottsman. The couple lived in Hungary with their children Amrita and Indira until the end of the First World War, after which the family sailed to India and settled down in Simla. It is these years of his life living in India and Europe with his wife and daughters that largely formed the subject of Umrao Singh's work as an amateur yet committed photographer. He produced a family album of vast proportions and unknowingly pioneered the genre of intentionally arranged and staged mise-en-scène photography that would be renewed by Indian photographers half a century later. And his self-portraits, and one of which you can see up on the screen out here, spanning almost 60 years, make up a unique archive. In 2007, the first retrospective of Umrao Singh's vintage prints was held at the Rencontre de Arles Photography Festival in France, followed by exhibitions at the National Gallery of Modern Art in Delhi and Mumbai, India. For the USG Grant 2025, for which we are gathered here, SSAF pledges 2 grants of rupees 5 lakhs each to photography projects working with staged, constructed images and to documentary photography, while of course recognizing the blurred boundaries between the methodologies and forms of both genres. Applications were invited via an open call, and we received, strangely enough, exactly 100 proposals from across India. And over 3 days, the jury deliberated and discussed the proposals to select the 2 grantees. The jury members for this year are Ahlam Shibli, Sher-Gil, and Sanjay Kak, and you'll be hearing from all 3. To introduce them formally, Ahlam Shibli is an artist photographer whose work has been presented in solo and group exhibitions internationally. Through her documentary aesthetics, her photographic work addresses the contradictory implications of the notion of home. It deals with the loss of home and the fight against that loss, also with the restrictions and limitations that the idea of home imposes on individuals and communities marked by repressive identity politics. Her work has been presented widely in institutions and in exhibitions around the world, and notable amongst these are at the Pompidou Metz, the Luma West Pau, Luma Arles, Museo ICU, the Seoul Museum of Art, the Museum de Moderne in Salzburg, Documenta 14, Camera Austria, the Tate Modern, Pompidou Paris, Documenta 12, at the Biennales of Sao Paulo, Busan, Seville, Istanbul, Torino, and Yokohama. And there's a long further list. Sher-Gil is a Delhi-based photographer. She has exhibited within India and internationally, including at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London, the Louisiana Museum of Modern Art, the Schön Kunsthalle Frankfurt, the 58th Venice Biennale, MoMA PS1 in New York, Documenta 14 in Athens and Kassel, and the Kochi Biennale in Kerala. She has also consistently exhibited at locations outside of the art world, including public libraries, rural schools, and nonprofit institutions. She received the Prix Pictet Award in 2023 and the Grange Prize in 2011, amongst many other honors. Recently, she published 2 books about her multi-year collaborations with Adivasi artists in Maharashtra, called Fields of Sight and Acts of Appearance, both published by Edition Patrick Frey, Zurich. Sanjay Kak is an independent documentary filmmaker and writer whose work includes the films Red Ant Dream, 2013, Jashne Azadi, 2007, and Words on Water, 2002. He is the editor of the anthology Until My Freedom Has Come, The New Intifada in Kashmir, and of the critically acclaimed photo book Witness Kashmir, 1986 to 2016, 9 photographers, which he published independently under the imprint of Yarbal Books. At Yarbal, he has also edited and published Cups of Noon Chai by Alana Hunt. A self-taught filmmaker, he writes occasional political commentary and reviews books that he's passionately engaged with. He has been active with the documentary cinema movement in India and with the Cinema of Resistance project. The SSAF grants program is envisaged as extending beyond financial support to, in fact, opening up a sort of discursive field, looking at transnational entanglements in art history and practice. So an absolutely essential part of the grants program is, in fact, an annual lecture by the international jury person, which is an important part of our annual events calendar. And this evening, we'll begin with a lecture by Ahlam Shibli, which will be moderated by Tanvi Mishra, who will be in conversation with her after. To briefly introduce Tanvi, who I think everybody knows as well, Tanvi Mishra is a curator, writer, and photo editor. Recent curatorial projects include Isadora Romero, Fume, Root, Seed at Musée Neumeister, Luxembourg, and Moving Definitions, an invitation to review as the Louis Rodero Discovery Award exhibition at Rencontre de Arles. She was an invited curator at Photo Kathmandu and the Breda Photo Biennale in the Netherlands. Tanvi has served as the creative director of the Caravan magazine and the photo editorial team of PIX. She served on many juries, including the World Press Photo, the Catchlight Global Fellowship, and is currently part of the International Advisory Committee of the World Press Photo. She's taught as well with Photo Circle, Pathshala, South Asian Media Institute, ICP, and many other places, and also conducted independent workshops. Tanvi was in fact a part of the Umrao Singh Sher-Gil grant, part of the jury in 2022. So if I could invite you, Ahlam.
Great. Good evening. It's a feeling of being among welcoming people, which a moment as a Palestinian we needed. I feel I'm among many friends, even that I'm meeting here for the first time. It's my first visit to India, to New Delhi as well. Here. I would like to start with telling you about my last exhibition in Portugal this year, in the city of Porto, at the contemporary art space, Ramba. The exhibition titled Palestine Here and There. 3 from Gaza, Fatma Hassouna, Mohammed Harb, and Rahaf al-Batniji. 1 from the West Bank, Munder Jawabra. 1 from Jerusalem and Galilee, Arif Masalha, and one from Galilee, myself, Ahlam Shibli. Showing photo, prints, screening, and films. I was the only one who could be there for the installation and the opening. Therefore, we kept reporting to all the 3 artists on each act and movement concerning the prints, the printing process, the installation, the text, and the celebration opening in the 12th of April 2025. One of our artists in the exhibition, as I mentioned before, is Fatma Hassouna, a photographer from Gaza. She graduated in multimedia from the University College of Applied Science and worked in the photography field. The next very early morning, Fatma Hassouna was no longer with us. She was killed alongside the 10 family members in their home by Israel airstrike on the 16th April 2025. Her parents were seriously injured 1 week after her father passed away. Fatma Hassouna was assassinated by Israel because she documented the civilian life of the Palestinian people during the Israeli genocide of the Palestinian people in Gaza. And mainly because she gained international recognition for her documentation of war impacts and became the subjects of the documentary film Put Your Soul on Your Hands and Walk, selected for the 2025 Cannes Festival. The documentary film Put Your Soul in Your Hand and Walk is directed by the French-Iranian filmmaker Safida Farsi. The film depicting life in Gaza during the Israeli ongoing genocide war, capturing through Farsi video a video conversation with Fatma Hassouna. The 15 April 2025 was a good news day for Fatma Hassouna. She received the call from the film director Safida Farsi about the accepting of the film for the Cannes Festival, and the word news spread the good news. I also brought good news that her work was purchased and that the public are extremely touched by her pictures. Israel, by its army, the IDF, correctly to say IOF, not defense but occupation, had another way to let Palestinians celebrate good news. They assassinated Fatma Hassouna alongside her family few hours after the good news. As of November 2025, over 69, this November, the 9th of November, today the number, of course, much higher. Almost 70,000 Palestinian people have been reported killed in the Gaza war and genocide. Among them, almost 18,000 children and almost 1,000 women. Plus, almost 2,000 Israeli, among them 1,150 Israeli soldiers and security men, and almost 58% were soldiers and security men. 80% of the Palestinians killed are civilians. 70% of the Palestinians killed in residential building or similar housing were women and children, as well as almost 260 Palestinian syndicated journalists and media workers were killed by Israel in Gaza, plus at least 433 journalists injured and at least 48 being arrested while covering the ongoing aggression and genocide by Israel and the Palestinian people. At least 1,037 academic teachers and over 565 humanitarian aid workers, including 179 employees of UNRWA, were killed and assassinated by Israel. A comparable estimate for traumatic injury, death, or related complication would be extremely high, more than 100,000 people, with more than 60% of them being women, children, and elderly, but not account for non-trauma-related deaths resulting from health service distribution, food inaccessibility, and inadequate water and sanitation. According to a report published by Al Jazeera in July 2025, more than 900 Palestinians, including 71 children, have died from hunger and malnutrition in Gaza since the genocide war began in October 2023. At least 94 Palestinian prisoners were tortured to death in Israel jails in the last 2 years. Over 60% of Gazans have lost family members since the war began in the 7th of October 2023. 2,613 families totally wiped out. 13,700 families lost at least one parent. Gaza's total population fell about 6% since the start of the Israeli genocide war in the 7th of October 2023. Free Palestine. It's hard to move to chapter B, but c'est la vie. We learn how to keep our heads up and continue our work. We have a mission. We have a work to do, as you do here, I believe. So I moved to chapter B, where I talk about my work, if you allowed me. From the beginning, in 1996, I created a series of photographs devoted to people living under specific local, political, historical, and cultural conditions. The paradigm of my work is a series rather than the notion of a single image. Most of my work, except of 2 series out of the 30 series so far, is not staged. The pictures are the result of a personal involvement that often extends over months to 2 years. Each series is finalized by an editing process of choosing 20 or 40 or 80 pictures from an archive of hundreds of pictures that I made. The different series I produced over time are concerned the one single issue that each new work approaches from a different perspective, unfolding it, displacing it, reconsidering it, under changing contextual conditions. The single issue of concern is the issue of home. Among the questions that can be derived from my work are the following. What are the consequences of being denied a home? What is the price individuals or population are forced to pay in return for claiming their home? Who defends the right to a home? What are the oppressive forces exercised in the name of a home? And what might be even the liberation effected of the loss of the home? I employ photography to open the eyes, to see what is there, as if it were there for the first time. and to recognize what is unrecognized. The photographer Santo Mofoking has written, home is an appropriated space. It does not exist objectively in reality. The notion of home is a fiction we create out of a need to belong. Home is a place where most people have never been to and never will arrive at, except below that patch of mound that has a number you notice as you glide past on your way to nowhere, anywhere. The problematic nature of home's inaccessibility and ambiguity is responsible at one hand and the same time for the urgent need to represent what is denied representation, and for the impossibility to consider representation a straightforward act of revealing what has been the famous formula of Ronald Barthes. The photographic recording needs to be careful not to objectify and victimize the subjects of a state violence. So now allow me, please, to go specifically through some works in details. I go first with the work Gotter. I made it in Palestine, Israel, in 2002, 2003. So it's quite from the beginning of my work that was start to be published, or I started to share it with the public. Gotter is a series of 44 photographs. The photographs of the Syria Gotter show Palestinians in their living places in Al-Naqab, the Negev, in south of Israel, Palestine. When I'm saying Israel, Palestine, so I'm referring to what today called Israel and the historical Palestine territory. So it's about the population, the Palestinian population living in their native land, which today is Israel, but of course are isolated, and till 1968 they were under a military regime by Israel. The people live in the villages that are not recognized by the Israeli state, that are not marked in official maps, and where no permanent houses can be built. Because the Israeli state denies a complete population, the Palestinian, the right to live in their inherited lands, and tries to concentrate them in several townships planned by Israel, and by this way, the Israeli state steals their lands. The condition can be expressed in the following way. Where there is a home, there is no house. And where there is a house, there is no home. In Gotter, to oppose the denial of recognition connected to the mutual exclusion of home and house, I represented places that Israel is excluded from representation. Turning into pictures what is visible but not recognized, I attempt to reverse the symbolic deletion, which is regularly accompanied by physical destruction of people and their places. Trackers. Palestine, Israel, 2005 series of 85 photographs. The challenge of the Syria trackers was to represent a part of the Palestinian reality that the Palestinian society itself has trouble to recognize. The phenomenon of Palestinian volunteer serving in the Israeli army. And yes, I managed to enter the army camp and photograph these guys. They look very fragile. It was a decision that I made to go and photograph the ones that just joined the army. They are still fresh. It's first time that they are having a weapon in the hands, grenades in the hands. So it's this fragility that I was searching to show, and through it to deal with the issue of the work. The volunteers expect from the dominant power recognition and the opportunity to build a house. People who are deprived of recognition and their ancestral lands don't know better than to invest their bodies in return for a place to live. They agree to fight against members of their own society who struggle to rebuild a homeland. In order to be entitled to a house, the volunteers agree to assist in the destruction of the homeland by the hegemonic power. And the risk losing their lives in that course of events. To understand the distance, the close distance and the familiar intimacy of me in Palestine with Palestine, I start to understand that I need also the long distance. So I start to widen my thinking about the question of home, and I arrived to the next work that I made in 2004 and in 2006, called Isran LGBT. Isran referring to LGBT plus community coming from the East, Arab countries, Muslim countries, South Asian countries, African countries. So it's an international series of 37 photographs. And here I wouldn't put for each picture where I took it and who are the persons in the picture in order to protect their safety. So no specific place for each image. In the series Isran LGBT, I focused in a different context in the relation between the body and the home. That work is devoted to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from Eastern countries such as Somalia, Lebanon, Palestine, Iraq, Iran, or Turkey, and more. Who, in their home countries, in their communities, they are denied the right to live according to their chosen sexual and gender orientation. In order to escape oppression, in the name of the homeland values, they have to leave their native societies, seeking opportunities to feel at home in their own sexual gender bodies in a foreigner place. Dom Dzieszka, the house starves when you are away. Poland, 2008, series of 35 photographs. Dom Dzieszka, it's a Polish word meaning orphanage, and literally it's the house of children. So it's about orphanages. Dom Dzieszka, the house starves when you are away, shows children who grow up away from a family home in an orphanage. Where they create a new home and a new social body. In the two series, Istran LGBT and Domjish, The House Starves When You Are Away, in both cases, I traces ways in which people react to the denial of an accommodating original home by establishing values and ways of living that divert from the majority's culture. Minorities employ their bodies to establish manners of existing that are opposed to traditional expectations. That leads me to the next area, trauma. The withdrawal of a native home. Even though involuntary and certainly painful, is revealed as bearing the potential of liberation and autodetermination, such in the case of the Harki people in France. The previous picture was concerned with Indochinian people, today's Vietnam, that were kidnapped from their villages, homes, and brought to France during the beginning of the Second World War to replace French people working in military factories. And the Harakis, it's the Algerian people who fought against their people that fought as a resistance to liberate Algeria from the French colonialism. And the Haraki, they were fighting with the French in the side of France, and with the end of the Algerian war, they moved to France. Inversely, it emerges that the people depicted in Ghouta and not only denied their own home by the Israeli state, but through that, denial also excluded from contemporary redefinitions of the notion of home, as we also see in the work of death. A population whose lands are claimed by the hegemonic power is not free to engage in definition of the home that are dissociated from a territory. And to remind that out of all the photographs I take in certain situations, I create a narrative which is telling at least one truth. And death was concerned with Palestinians who fought against Israel by being a resistance and militant resistance against the Israeli occupation. And with that act, actually, they would lose their houses because Israel will destroy their houses. And of course, they will lose their bodies because Israel will kill them. So in order to free their homeland, they had to sacrifice the house and the body. The truth that I saw. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Ahlam, for giving us this rich sort of overview into your practice, particularly taking us briefly through the interconnected nature of the works, but also how you've deployed the photographic form to look at the ongoing reality in Palestine, very much before the start of the current genocide in October 7, 2023. And it made me think how this moves, what happens in Palestine moves very much within and outside the frame of in the international audience, but you have remained steadfast and committed to it through the gaze of your camera. So really going through your works before this talk and today, help sort of bridge these histories also into the current moment. I wanted to start with what you began with Fatma Hassouna. We all heard about her death along with the killing of many other Palestinian journalists, media workers. And, you know, this moment where Sepide Farsi makes a film on her that screens at Cannes and then she is killed the next day. Her death is not incidental, but a targeted airstrike on her home, killing her with her family members. This is a facet that we have been witness to over and over again over the last 2 years of the genocide in Gaza, where press and media workers have been killed by targeted airstrikes on their homes and press tents, which is quite unprecedented. It is said to be the deadliest situation in modern history for journalists and media workers. And in these times of relentless attacks on those who document the reality ongoing in Gaza, particularly at a time when Israel does not allow any international media workers also to enter from the outside, I wanted to speak a bit about this very act of witnessing. What do you make of this relationship between witnessing visibility and seeking justice? I ask this because as many of these journalists and photographers have worked to make the world see the crimes of Israel, by Israel, the more their words and work come into the spotlight, the more visible these crimes become, but also the more visibility that these individuals get. They become systematically targeted. What we have now is this vast archive of excess of the wounds of these atrocities, accompanied by the absence of these very media workers who carry through these acts of witnessing. What do you make of the cost of being a witness? In the case of Fatma, but many others like Anas al-Sharif, who was receiving death threats much before he was killed, Mohammad Salama, who was killed by an airstrike while he was reporting at Nasser Hospital, or others who were targeted in their journalist tents. It's a question I have also been asking, whether witnessing is a necessary step towards the seeking of justice.
Come to my head two people. The first one, El-Zbeidi from Jenin refugee camp, when in a documentary film about him, he was very young, now he's more than 40 years old. There's a very, very beautiful film called The Children of Arna. Arna was a very leftist Israeli person who established a theater in Jenin refugee camp in the West Bank. And Zbeidi, he was one of the activist children in that theater. And the film director in this film asked him, why you are joining the resistance? Israel will destroy your house and your family house. He said, well, are we better than our neighbors? And Fatma Hassouna, she knew that she will be killed, not because only that she is photographing the reality, but all the Palestinians in Gaza, they are waiting. They don't want to wait. But the situation making them waiting, is it this now their chance that they will be killed? I know several artists in Gaza, and with my chatting with them in the WhatsApp and by telephone, they are repeating the same things. It's a question: is it me today or my neighbor? Everybody witnessing death around, physically surrounded by neighbors that have been killed just few minutes ago, yesterday. So Israel doesn't want to let anybody from the Palestinian alive. They want to delete completely the Palestinian people. So the question, do we stay passive, waiting for our death, or we do the maximum what we can do till the last moment if we are going to be killed? As we see, unfortunately, not talking about people, but talking about the power, the governments, they are not interested to finish this war. They are interested to keep this business of the business of war is bringing a lot of money. And if we look and search, we find out that the governments are directly involved with dealing of weapons. We witnessed in the earlier wars on Gaza, millions of people went out in demonstration in Athens, in London, in Barcelona. Of course, all of that helps. People, the Palestinian people in Gaza, in the West Bank, inside Israel, in the diaspora, they hear the voice of the people everywhere. And it is very powerful, it is very much meaningful, and properly it's also giving the power for Fatma Hassouna, knowing that she is risking her life by each time she go to photograph, but she know that there's people waiting to see this photograph. They want to be witness and to be active against this genocide. So I hope I answered.
I think a lot of your work deals with this idea of not being resolved, but opening up quite a few more questions. Something that you mentioned, one of the questions that you do explore in your work is you look at the oppressive forces that are exercised in the naming of a home. It made me think of two of your series, and I'm quite interested in how many of your series relate to one another. Like in Trackers and Trauma, you're looking at this instability of the position between the victim and the oppressor and how that might change. In one case, where you look at the French soldier who fights against the oppressive German forces in France, the same entity becomes the oppressor fighting on the other's land in Indochina, as you refer, or Vietnam, and also in Nigeria, and the same entity becomes a colonial force. You're looking at this duality. In one of the images in your series, Trauma, you write, this is from her website, where she writes that it documents the detail, of the torture done by the French army in Algeria, as shown by Daniel Espinat. During the German occupation of France, Daniel Espinat was a member of the Armée Secrète, which was an organization of resistance fighters in 1942. Later, he became an activist against the Algerian war waged by France. So this duality of an individual as well. And you look at this dual bind also in Trackers, where Palestinians join the Israeli army in exchange for being promised a house. You spoke yesterday about how the indigenous entity is utilized by occupation forces, and they are recruited into the army because they are familiar with the land. I was interested also in your language of what you use. You were talking about fragility. You never show the soldiers in combat. There's almost a kind of brotherhood amongst them, amongst the men that are seen. There is a gentleness. I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you arrived at this language of representation for the soldiers, but also why you thought it's important to look at this duality across multiple projects, but also within the project.
With the work Trackers, it's very interesting that you bring Trauma to it. In my head was the work Death, which connect to it, because in Trackers, and you are bringing a very interesting point. It's they are also the two different directions. I will relate them. With the work Trackers, it's Palestinian who who joined the Israeli army, and I heard them saying one to the other, "You are traitors." So they are aware of their position and what they are doing. By joining the Israeli army, Israel afford them a discount for buying land to build a house, a discount that arrived to 75%, which is very meaningful economically. Of course, Israel is a devil, as we all know, so Israel will never give them. Israel first took these lands from the village where they come from. But also, they will never give them the land that they took from their family. Always they give them the land of other family in the village. Then they create a fight in the village between the families, because it's much easier that I come to my neighbor telling him, you took my land. I don't have the power to say to the government, don't take my land, so I blame my neighbor. And with the work death, knowing that, joining with the trackers, joining the Israeli army, and that's where I took the name of the Syria. They joined a unit called the trackers, and the trackers, the ones who track, they are in the borders of Israel with the Arab countries, and they had to track if anybody entered, Palestinian fighters from Lebanon or Syria or Jordan, and to find out where they are hiding. The tracker has to be in the front. And then this tracker, he will be the first to be killed if there's a Palestinian resistance hiding somewhere. So in order to build this house, they take the risk to also to be killed, but they want again to build the house. In the work of death, where I photographed Palestinian, I took specifically the city of Nablus in the West Bank. It's a Palestinian who joined the armed resistance. It's the years of 2000 till 2005, when Yasser Arafat, if the name says something to you, ordered the Palestinian, to use their weapons to fight Israel. It was before, with the first Intifada, and remind you with your film, with the first Intifada, there was no weapons. The first Intifada, 1988 till 1992, 91, 92, and then Oslo was. So the first Intifada, there was no weapons with the Palestinian inside Palestine, the West Bank, Gaza, and inside Israel. And as you remember from the TV, the Children of the Stones, people use the stones to fight the Israeli army. The second Intifada, it's a difference. There was Oslo, Israel, America, trained Palestinian security and gave them weapons. The goal was that these Palestinians, as they are today with the new, with the time after Arafat, after Yasser Arafat, the goal was that they use these weapons against Palestinians. But Yasser Arafat turned the pot and give an order, you are use it against Israelis. So it was an armed resistance. Any Palestinian who was involved with armed resistance, killing Israeli, or trying or planning, would be assassinated. And the Palestinians knew that, so that they joined this resistance movement. Not only they will be killed, but also their houses and the family house will be destroyed. So I did trackers first, and then much later, in 2005, I did trackers, and the death, I did it in 2010-11. So the ideas of my work, they don't come. I do work and they leave me. They always start, one person said they are like my hair. They are so they start here, make a project, but then come here, continue another project, and show up in trauma, show up in death. But always there's a relation, even with thinking of, with my work, other two works I did, one about my village, the people who stayed in Palestine, the valley, and the people of my village who became refugees in Jordan. So there's, spaghetti. With the trauma, I was invited to come to France for a residency, and I could do whatever I choose. What's helped me usually, I need these 10 days from the morning to the night to go in a place and just like a scanner, not photographing, a scanner, listening, hearing, looking, and thinking during these days. And after 10 days, like when I was a child with mathematics, it doesn't solved in the evening, but then I get in the morning and I write it. And in these 10 days, it happened to me that I get up after 10 days, I find it. And I feel, of course, excited. I found it. So this, it was problematic because I asked myself, well, the French people, they have libraries, books. They are all the time showing themselves as a victims. Even when they are colonizing any country, in their eyes they are victims. And why do I leave Palestine, my small society, we are hardly 8 million, and go to a huge country with so much archive and history and representation and re-representation, etc. Why do I need to do this work? So I struggled, and then before that an idea, the 10 days. Then I had these 10 days, and I said, okay, let's be open and serious. After the 10 days, I would like that I have this opportunity that I tell you, no, I am sorry, I'm not interested. But then going these 10 days, there's a history in front of the eyes that people don't want to see it. And it's not hidden in books. It's there, the neighbor, the Indonesian neighbor. Nobody asks, how come this Indonesian neighbor lives here? Who brought him? What is his story? Nobody talked about it. There's a... Now, the most bizarre thing was there's a monument everywhere, monuments for the first word, second word. But what I find it, and from here my eyes open, that this monument, when you go around them, they are full with the plates concerning the French heroes. But in all French wars, the hero French in Indochina, the hero French in the First World War, the hero French in Algeria, the hero so in one hand, the French resistance, they were captured by the French government, the Vichy, that made a peace with Germany. Okay, just one phase in the history. In the Second World War, the second half, France fought against Germany. And then France made an agreement with Germany to let Germany occupy it and establish a Vichy regime, the regime that actually, like the Palestinian Authority for Israel, it's doing what Germany wants. And so the Vichy regime considered this resistance as a shall I say as a traitor? I don't know, but absolutely they will catch them and send them to deportation camps in Germany. So at that time that the resistance were considered something negative, now in these monuments, also the resistance are heroes. And every week there's a celebration for this group and that war, victims of that war and that war. And then I thought, okay, here is the key for this work. So the need to open what is in front of the eyes, but we don't want to see it, as with the trackers, the Palestinian, Palestinian, they are my neighbor. They are in front of my eyes, but I don't want to see them. As with the French history, this refusal to see, to question the French, I wanted to say the Israeli fighters, but it's it's the same. French fighter, Israeli fighters. It's the colonial power fighting the native people, indigenous people, local people. And yes, so I see what you are talking about.
I'm being given some cues to open it to the floor. I had one last question I wanted to ask.
We have to shorten. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think something that keeps coming up in a lot of debates in relation to Palestine is the idea of nationhood. And you pulled up that quote of Santu Mofokeng where he talks about that home is an appropriated space. I was thinking that maybe you could speak a little bit about this in context to the nation, because currently the nation state embodies a violent coloniality towards its own citizens, and not all citizens are treated the same under this entity. So in this differential, many leave their homeland, something they migrate elsewhere, something you've also shown in your series Eastern LGBT, this movement away from the homeland. How do you read this movement that may be emancipatory, one that is away from one's land amidst the backdrop when often the meaning of home, homeland, and nation is conflated to mean the same thing?
That's exactly what brought me to the work about the children in orphanage. I asked myself, okay, so fighting for this home, wanting this home with any price, do we need really a home? Okay, I said the first work I sell, I'm going to take the money and run to Poland to do this work. And why Poland? So I thought I took it as a lab condition. In order to check or look at a situation that there's no the traditional home, I thought to go to a country where there's no catastrophe, no war, no outside condition affect the situation, like a biologist or chemist in the lab would prefer to have a clean condition of what observing. So Poland, the first things they allow to photograph children. In Spain they don't, in France they don't. Luckily in Poland they allow. And Poland, quite good situation, no wars, no disaster, but many orphanages. I managed to enter 21 orphanage and to live there. This was my condition for the ones who accepted. I wrote almost 189 orphanages. I wrote a letter and explained my project and asked if they agree. And I wanted to live there in order to be there and the children see me every day and not passing by. And why I wanted to photograph there? So I wanted people that they are from the beginning, and the truckers, I also wanted that soldiers that they just join, it's the same day that they join the army, the same month, to have them with clean other conditions that allowed me to observe. Because the soldiers, they are not yet the macho. After 2 years, they become very macho with these weapons they carry and this uniform. And the children, they are still children. They don't really know the traditional home, family home. And I wanted to learn from them, do we need a home? Maybe it's a manipulation of the society in our minds to make us like it's correct to have a family, a man, a woman, get married, have children. This is the ideal. So is it a manipulation in our minds? And then the big discovery was for me, which I when I was working in this work, I made the work. I didn't look at the picture. And after 3 months, I look at the picture and I say, wow, I'm completely wrong. So I had to make a switch of my thinking and look what is there and not go through what is in my head. And what I discovered that these children, they created a new society, which similar to the LGBTQ, where they create a new society that it's not the traditional society we know and we are following. Thank you. Thank you so much.